Okay, so what I want to do here is look at how Russian state media was covering Prigozhin's death and the plane crash. So here, now I found only two videos on RT. One was just 33 seconds of just burning wreckage, and the other was this, where they actually talked about it to some degree. So let's see what we see, and I'll stop periodically. So here we go.
Its claim, citing the country's Federal Air Transport Agency, the Wagner military group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin was listed as a passenger on a plane that's crashed in Russia's Tver region to the northwest of Moscow. A criminal case has been initiated over the incident, citing an article about violations of traffic safety. Emergency services say 10 people are on board, including 3 crew members and 7 passengers. At least 8 bodies have reportedly been recovered so far. Well, let's cross live now to RT correspondent Roman Korsarev for more on this. Roman, good evening to you again. Obviously, as we know, we just heard that Prigozhin was listed on the flight manifest. What more can you tell us about this crash?
Well, despite all the frenzy in the social media and in the news, we still have no confirmation of whether the head of the Wagner private military company, Evgeny Prigozhin, is either dead or alive. But we do have reports from Russian media that his name was listed as part of the crew, as part of the passengers, and it was confirmed by Russian aviation authorities as well that he was on the flight from Moscow to St. Petersburg. Once again, at this point in time, these are all speculations that Yevgeny Prigozhin was on this flight. Now, it was a private business jet flight from Moscow to St. Petersburg. There were 10 people on board, including 3 crew members. So far, Russian authorities have discovered.
Okay, let me stop there for just a moment. So here are my initial thoughts. One, they got to the plane wreckage pretty quickly. Um, just a thought. It could mean nothing. Second, and I was thinking about this earlier today. If Prigozhin was like a buddy of mine, and he's not, but if he was, and he said, "Hey, would you want an all expense vacation? We're gonna fly to Cancun, just a few friends, and you can come. It's a $50,000 worth of vacation, but it's completely free for you." There is no way on God's green earth I would touch that, because everybody knows he was a marked man from the time that he led the revolt or freedom march or whatever it was. But so there were 10 people on board. So there were 9 people that died in the process of targeting Prigozhin, is what that looks like to me. I would never want to do that. Even if he said, just take my plane. You're welcome to take my plane. You can go by yourself. I wouldn't even do that. This was just like, he had to have known that he had a mark or a target on his back. But okay, at any rate, let's keep going.
Covered um, 8 bodies. However, we still have no confirmation that Yevgeny Prigozhin was actually there. Now, we have heard witness accounts from the people on the ground that they heard a couple of explosions there, and before the plane crashed, uh, like I said before, they heard a couple of explosions, and afterwards the wing and the stabilizer of the aircraft fell off.
Okay, and so that is consistent with what I've seen from Pravda. Pravda talked about how there were 2 explosions, and then the plane flipped over, and then the wing and stabilizer detached, or something along those lines. So this is what RT is saying is consistent with what Pravda is saying.
And it crashed near an abandoned farm. It's right between Moscow and St. Petersburg. Now, of course, there is a huge media frenzy right now in Russia. People are trying to find out whether Evgeny Prigozhin was on this flight or not. Uh, there are many conflicting accounts as well, because apparently this private business jet company, they chartered 2 flights for Evgeny Prigozhin, and one of them had safely returned back to Moscow after the first plane had crashed. So once again, at this moment in time, these are all just speculations, and we're waiting to hear from the authorities. However, we do know that Russian investigative committee have already launched.
Now, when he said at this time was this time yesterday. It was 24 hours earlier, shortly after what happened in after the incident itself. So it's not like we don't know the facts now. We're pretty certain that his body was on that plane, and the other jet returned without him. So we're even more certain about that.
A criminal inquiry into this case about the crash. We do know that the crash had happened. We just don't know whether Evgeny Prigozhin was on it or not. Now, in case for those of our viewers that don't know who Evgeny Prigozhin is, he's the head of the Wagner private military company, who were instrumental in some parts of the special military operation of Russia in Ukraine. He was instrumental in liberating of the town of Artomovsk, also known as Bakhmut.
And that's what I'm looking for here. I'm looking to see how Russian media actually plays this. And I'm going to watch this over the next few days, and I'll bring this forward if I see anything interesting. Because he was, think about this, the Russian military hasn't done anything of any substance other than digging defensive lines and trenches in the last year. I mean, the last real big push that they had was Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, and Wagner is responsible for what happened in Bakhmut, like their only kind of victory in the last year. So will Russians say fond things of him on Russian state media moving forward, or is that going to be prohibited? And as my daughter and I were listening to news accounts of this today, this is one of my older children, said, there's something wrong about leadership. Like, you can tell when there's a bad leader when people can't say anything bad about the leader. Like, think about it in the United States. You can say whatever you want about Biden. You can say whatever you want about Trump. Doesn't mean he's not a bad leader. But if your system would disallow you from saying anything bad about the leader, that's a bad leader. Okay, at any rate, I'm digressing long enough. Let's get back to this. But it's interesting to see how they're going to frame Prigozhin, given what has happened and what the official line will be wanting to say about him.
And other operations as well. Now, at this moment in time, Russian aviation authorities are still waiting to confirm. So anything, any news that are coming in from any witness accounts, we are waiting confirmation from officials whether Evgeny Prigozhin was actually on the flight that was that crashed between Moscow and St. Petersburg, and we still don't know anything about the circumstances of why that plane crashed. So watch this space, and I'm sure very soon we'll find out exactly what happened.
There's lots of unanswered questions surrounding that plane crash, Roma. I hope you keep us updated. Thanks very much for that.
There's lots of unanswered questions, but we've all answered the questions in our head. Nobody's surprised by this. Everybody knows that in some way, shape, or form, it seems like Putin or the FSB or somebody, the powers that be, are behind it, and we're not really surprised. That's because the system that you have is perfectly geared to give you what you're getting, and this is a corrupt, foul, destructive system, and we all know it. All right. That's all that I have for now. I'll keep you posted if I see anything else that will add context or help you understand how and why they framed what they framed. All right. Thank you. Thanks for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, the coffees, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.